So the Houston Texans were able to defeat the Tennessee Titans. It wasn't their most pretty win of the season, but it probably was their most important win of the season, as they now are looking in good shape to try to make the postseason. They have a great shot at making the playoffs, and really what I thought they did best was their defense came through in big ways when they had to. Again, it was kind of sloppy at times. I'm not going to say it was their most pretty win of the season, but sometimes you don't play your best football and you still have to find ways to win. It seems like the Texans have at times played terrible football when they should have won, and they played really good football at times as well. So it's kind of nice, I think, if you're a Texans fan, to see them maybe not play their best game. Watson threw 2 interceptions, but they still were able to come away with a win. And a big way they were able to do it was with plays like this one. This was probably the biggest play of the game. This was a game changer in my opinion. It's going to be man coverage, and for the Titans, it's going to be pretty similar to a rub route. They're going to have the receiver at the edge right there, just he'll run a slant route, and they'll have another receiver run out to try to sort of get into the way of his assigned man to make sure that it's tougher to then get over and make this play. It's a perfect play call against this type of situation, so that is where Tannehill is going to look to throw this ball to. And as you see, if you look at that circle right there, there's actually 2 things that you'll probably notice. One is that there is contact, but that's not really the guy who you want to have contact being made towards. Really, the idea was that the Tennessee Titan who's in that circle should have ran over and gotten contact with the other player, or at least got in his way, but there's a great job going on right there. That defensive back is doing a tremendous job of breaking too far so that he can't get over and make contact. And now for the Titan who Tannehill is trying to hit the ball to, he could potentially make a tackle and hopefully not allow this pass to be complete. But watch how, like a heat-seeking missile, he's going to hit him in a perfect spot, which allows the ball to get knocked over and actually intercepted by Merciless. He ends up returning it all the way to inside the 15-yard line. I didn't actually show the whole return just because it'll get copyright claimed if I show too much of it. But really a tremendous play by the Texans on that one. First, to just make a break on the ball, realize the situation, and be able to not allow it to be complete, but also just Merciless looking around, seeing a ball that comes right his way, but then being able to catch it and run a very long way back. And that really was the difference in this game, I think, if you think about it. I mean, it was a 3-point game, and that play has more than a 3-point swing. So that was a huge play in that game. So that's one of the things that the Houston Texans defense did well. Another thing I thought they did well was they stopped the run pretty well. I know there was a good amount of rushing yards in total, but keep in mind that part of that was just one Jonnu Smith 57-yard rush. Other than that, Derrick Henry was held to 4.1 yards per carry. That's 86 yards on 21 carries, which doesn't sound that, tremendous. I mean, that's kind of mediocre, but the reality is the way Derrick Henry has been playing this second half of the season, holding him to just 4.1 yards per carry is a huge win. One of the ways they were able to do that was a play like this, where actually the key block is going to be what's going on with Tennessee's right guard. He has a one-on-one matchup against defensive end Andrew Blackson, and so this is a key block to make right here, but Blackson is going to do a great job on it. But also just one other thing that's going to happen, there's going to be a double team on another defensive player, but then the right tackle will move out to block Zach Cunningham. So really, those are the 2 key things to take a look at. But first things first, you will notice that Blackson does a great job of basically just shooting through that gap and pushing the line of scrimmage further back. As you see, that's kind of what it means with line of scrimmage getting pushed further back, is now the halfback has to make his decision several yards earlier than he would have liked to. Usually you want to kind of wait a little bit more before deciding which hole you want to run through. Now he can't. He has to choose a certain gap because Blackson did move the line of scrimmage backwards. But also now because of that, Zach Cunningham realizes this. So the second he sees Lewis run through a certain gap, he's able to run over and meet him and make the tackle. Great play by both of them. As we all know, defense is a team unit, especially in the running game, and good team football there by Cunningham and Blackson combining for a good play. And that's just kind of what they did all game long for the most part. I mean, it wasn't all runs for losses, but at least it was not allowing big runs to happen, and that's kind of the key to beating the Titans, is don't let them beat you through the ground, and then just hope that Tannehill can make some mistakes, and that's kind of what happened. Like, there was also a play like this, where first there's going to be a double team going on right there, and then also the 2 extra players in the top half of the screen will just go out to block the 2 Houston players who are right in that area, so nothing too fancy there. But also worth mentioning, there will be a left guard who's going to pull over to the top half of the screen, so he's going to try to lead block, and then, hopefully that the halfback, Derrick Henry, in this situation can just outrun anyone else who gets in the area. It probably won't go for a touchdown. There are unblocked Houston players in the area, but at least this could go for some yards. However, take a look at what McKinney is going to do. And more specifically, notice how he doesn't really get moved at all on this one. He's able to plant his feet, not allow himself to get moved, and now there just isn't that much space. And so basically at this point, for one thing, no one can get off the double team, so now it frees up another one of those Texans players who are fastly approaching, but it also makes the holes just that much smaller, and now when you have several Texans running in, there just isn't a lot of room for Henry to run. When there's not that many holes to clog up, they're easily able to clog them up. Henry gets a couple of yards, but that's it, and again, that's the key, is just don't allow him to get those 5-6 yard runs. Make sure that he only gets 1 or 2 yard runs. That's what you have to do, and that's what they did a pretty good job at. Not an elite job at, but that was a huge way they were able to get the win by being able to do a decent job at that. And another thing they were able to be effective at was just their defensive backs winning their one-on-one matchups. It's something that they've struggled with a lot throughout the season, but at the end of the day, they did a really good job against the Tennessee Titans offense. Part of that is the Titans just don't have the wide receiving core that some other teams do, but either way, I thought they did a pretty good job, and this play is a good example. It's going to be man coverage, and for Tennessee, they have a receiver running that route right there, and that is the route that Tannehill is going to look to throw to because it is a pretty good route against this type of situation. However, Tennessee is actually going to make a mistake here, and Houston is going to get a break. If you notice, Dion Lewis right there, he's wide open. Nobody picked him up. Houston actually made a pretty bad mistake. No one picked him up. Whoever was in charge of covering him thought that he was going to be blocking, and so that he started rushing the passer. But this allows Lewis to now be wide open. However, Tennessee is not going to throw the ball in his direction, so they get a little bit of a break there. But if you notice, there still is an okay situation for Tennessee. I mean, if you look right there, it's a little bit hard to tell. I know it's a little blurry, but Gary and Conley is in coverage there, but he's behind his assigned man. So if that Tennessee player can charge quick enough, he can make the grab, and there really isn't much that Houston can do about this. But Conley makes a good break on this ball. He's able to get his hand in and knock it away, and that causes a 4th down here when the Titans could have tried to get points. However, even after that 3rd down stop, that didn't necessarily mean the Titans were just going to punt the ball away. They lined up in a punting formation, but they're going to go with a fake here. It's pretty simple. Those two Tennessee players will simply just run those 2 routes, and hopefully for them, the Houston Texans will just expect it to be a punt and will turn their backs, and this could allow for a potential player to get wide open. So the ball is snapped. Brett Kern throws a pass deep downfield, and if you look at this is actually a great situation for Houston. It's going to be Lonnie Johnson Jr., who is a cornerback, so that works out well, but he is in a perfect position right now to knock this ball away. He's able to leap up and slap it away. Now, also worth noting, you can't actually perform pass interference. There is no such thing as a pass interference when it's a punt formation. But either way, Lonnie Johnson just knocked it away because that's what you should do in that situation. And he was able to do a pretty good job. And, he knocked the ball away, and that's what matters. I actually don't even hate the call from Tennessee to go for the fake punt right there. But Houston just wasn't fooled. So it wasn't just their defense, playing well in traditional ways, but also on a special teams play. A defensive player was able to have a good play. I also thought they did a pretty good job of just applying pressure throughout the game. Like on this one, it's going to be a little bit creative. They're going to have those 3 Houston players rush the passer, and while there's a lot of other guys who could potentially be rushing the passer as well, what they're actually going to do is have their player right there run towards the tackle, and it's going to kind of try to run sort of towards the inside of the tackle, and then they're going to have another player run around him, and hopefully he could try to just get cleanly around the tackle. That's A.J. Moore Jr., and really if he can get through, then the only person in the area would be Dion Lewis, which is a pretty good situation. Lewis isn't the best blocker necessarily, so it's something that they like. And so after this ball is snapped, if you notice, Lewis actually does a pretty good job of picking up the pressure, so he is moving over to make sure he makes this play, but he's just not going to be able to make this block. Moore's just bigger than Lewis, and he's able to push his hands on that shoulder pad right there, and if he didn't get held, he would have gotten a sack out of it, and maybe even a forced fumble, who knows. Honestly, not even a bad play by Lewis to hold him on that one, because you don't want to just let a straight shot to your quarterback happen. Either way, though, that's what the Houston Texans were doing. They were playing good football on defense, and, again, I keep saying it wasn't the prettiest win, but the reality is, if you win a game like this, and it's beautiful because of how important the game was, and they played pretty well. I'm not trying to say that it was an ugly win by any means, just they made some mistakes, but they more than made up for their mistakes, so good team win by Houston, I thought, more than anything. I was one of those people that I was totally in on Tennessee. I thought Tennessee was going to steal this division, but as of right now Houston is in the driver's seat. It's still not over. They still have to finish. a big game against Tampa Bay, who are no slouches, as Jameis Winston all of a sudden is throwing for 450 yards a game. And then you also are going to have the Tennessee Titans once again, this time in Houston. So big end to the season for the Texans, but huge win here.